What's going on, guys, and welcome to today's video. And we added a few more cylinders to the new Jeep Wrangler. But let me explain. A few short 6 months ago, I was standing here showing you guys, to me, the world's most capable JL Wrangler that we had ordered, received, and were slowly modding and off-roading. And yeah, I had no intentions of getting rid of, or trading, or whatever you want to call it, that JL. I had planned to drive that thing for a long time until something came along, but something kind of came along, and the fact was it's insane rebates and incentives on Wranglers right now. If you didn't know, the dealer world is in a bit of trouble. There are a lot of stock sitting on dealer lots that dealers can't really get rid of. Manufacturers are obviously seeing this. Currently, as I speak in this video, Wrangler and Gladiator production is on a hold right now due to the massive dealer stock sitting on lots right now that aren't moving. Interest rates are high and prices are ridiculously high. Also, that means nobody's buying vehicles, and rightfully so, but dealers and manufacturers that are wanting to get vehicles moved off the lot will often add rebates or incentives on vehicles. That's a normal thing that happens in the dealership world on new cars. Now, one thing that is a new thing that never happens in the dealership world is those rebates and incentives on Wranglers. Historically, in the world of Wranglers, there has never been rebates or incentives from a manufacturer on new vehicles, and the answer or the reason has always been you don't need rebates or incentives on a Wrangler. They sell. They always sell. It doesn't matter why, how much, when, where, or how. Wranglers sell. You don't need incentives or rebates. There will be every other vehicle in the lineup with rebates on them, but there is never rebates or incentives on a Wrangler. Until now, there is, like I said, as of this filming in September 2024, there are massive rebates and incentives from A, manufacturers, and B, dealers on new inventory sitting there rotting on the lot that they can't get rid of. So 6 months ago, when I ordered and purchased my 3.6 liter Extreme 35 package, 488 geared, leather interior packaged, perfectly optioned JL, there again were no incentives. I paid my normal pricing and off I went. Of course, the 392 would have been very cool, but 392 pricing is absolutely absurd until now. Like I said, this vehicle had over $16,000 off window sticker for the price, which basically put this thing's price right exactly smack dab where the window sticker on my 2024 3.6 liter very optioned up Wrangler was. Again, I had no plans of changing. I happened to be browsing around on Auto Trader one night and searched 392s, searched by price, and my jaw kind of dropped with, again, these current rebates and incentives. Contacted the dealer and kind of got the ball rolling, and next thing I knew, I was trading in my 2024 3.6 liter that you guys had saw on the channel and my 2015 Ram 3.6 liter that, again, we put together on the channel. We got the engine all put back together and off it went. So those two went away and we brought home the 392. And again, like I said, I would not ever have ordered or purchased a 392 in normal pricing, but with these insane rebates that weren't there 6 months ago, this all of a sudden was the exact same price as my 3.6 liter, which is kind of hard to think about, but here we are. So today I thought I would introduce the 392. We're going to walk around it and talk about the things that I've already done to this thing, what plans we have with it, and how I've been getting along with it now, driving it for, I think, a week and a half or so. I've had this thing, like I said, for about a week and a half and have been doing a few things here and there. Yeah, it's quite a motor in this thing. So let's walk around and see what we've got. So guys, like I said, 2024 392 Rubicon. Now there is no Extreme 35 package or option. It is just, they all come how they come. You can't not have the 35-inch tall wheel and tire package with the 456 gears and the factory, you know, 1.5-inch lift. That is how these things come. It is just how they are, no other options really. Now, the one thing this is missing, and it did not get optioned with, which I would have optioned, is the factory winch. Now, is that a big deal? No, absolutely not. And yes, that factory winch is only an 8,000-pound Warren, which most people say is way too small for a big, huge, heavy, fat pig of a JL, but I digress. Would have been cool, just the factory option's kind of neat, but we'll throw a winch on it later down the line. But Rubicon, you know, like I said, I've already done a few little things here and there. I did basically pull all the easily removable parts off of the 3.6 liter and have thrown them on here. Now, what that consisted of is our little 1-inch spacer lift. We've got Mopar 2-inch lift lower control arms on this thing. We've got our rear shock extensions. We've got metal cloak front and rear control arm shock skid plates back here, as you guys can see there and there. We've got our Mopar Performance, the big fat wide rock rails to help keep this thing off of the trees and the rocks. Again, we've got Mopar 2-inch lift front sway bar in links. Again, just a lot of little suspension part and piece stuff here to add a little bit more lift to this thing and a little bit more shock travel on it with the shock extensions. Now, the big kind of bright thing hiding in the interior on all 2024 392s that are not the final edition, you are greeted with a very, very bright blood red interior. And initially I kind of hated the fact that you are stuck with the red interior, but to be honest, I have kind of grown to love it and appreciate it. Like I said, very bright, very red, but the one thing cool about the 24 Rubicons here is all of that red accent stitching all over the thing, on the door panels, on the hood, or excuse me, on the dash, on the steering wheel. So the red kind of all works together. Your Rubicon switch bank there is of course red. So it all kind of works together, but one thing that did not work is the 392 specific badging and decals and tow hooks. Now, as you guys can see, this thing has all red, or almost all red. I'm still waiting on some trail rated badges. But if you guys didn't know, 392s all come with bronze, kind of bronzy gold colored decals and tow hooks. I'll throw a picture up here of what I'm talking about of this thing before I started ripping badges off. And I absolutely don't love that on the 392s, or at least on this one with the white and the red interior. That bronze didn't really go with absolutely anything on it. Maybe I'm boring, but I down badged this thing to the normal red Rubicon stuff. Our you know, hood decal, the Jeep on the fender, and of course the tow hooks front and rear all got swapped out to just normal, ordered off of my previous 24 V6, and that's kind of how I like it. I'd rather it just look like a normal Rubicon. Now, what I'm of course talking about is our Rubicon here on the hood. Instead of it being the bronze gold, it's just red like it's supposed to be. Our Jeep badge here, of course, has red instead of the bronze gold color. And here you can actually see the trail rated badge, which has not come in yet, is again just going to be the normal red and black. So it will just look normal like it's supposed to. I've got the front and rear tow hooks swapped out to just normal Rubicon ones instead of the crazy goldy bronze color. And then last but not least, 392 badges here on the hood in red and black instead of the gold bronze, which again I don't really love. The only thing left that is bronze, that is only very slightly bronze, which in the sun it looks even more bronze than it does in person, are these wheels. I think the plan is going to be to break these things down and have them just powder coated satin black, and it'll kind of match everything else in the fleet here in the garage. But for the time being, I'm just going to rock them until I actually get time to get them broken down. Now the big business end here is, of course, the 392 underneath the hood. The kind of last of a dying breed here. Like I said, this thing is going to last one more model year. 2025 is going to be, as of now, the last year for the 6.4 liter. The 5.7 is already dead and gone, but like I said, we've got the 6.4 still living for another model year in the 392 Wrangler and the Dodge Durango SRT. So those are the only things left. One more model year and this thing will be a dinosaur. It will be gone. There will be no more left in the world. So we're doing our part to hopefully save a Hemi, save a 392, and hopefully have a little bit of fun with this thing. Now guys, on the options here, I was able to kind of right a few wrongs that I messed up on with my V6 order. I did not order technology group, which kind of ended up biting me a little bit there. It would have had a few things which I kind of ended up regretting having, which the 392 does of course come with. One thing being the dimming mirror. I kind of was under the assumption that was done away with a few model years ago, but I was very incorrect in that video. And the auto dimming mirror, which isn't a big deal at all, but it's just kind of a thing that if you're spending a bunch of money, why don't you have it, Jeep? But again, it was part of a technology group. Also included in that technology group is the front trail camera, which I didn't think I would care about that much. But now off-roading this thing once already, yeah, it's pretty darn nice to have. I'm not gonna lie. Now, yes, you can wheel without it. Absolutely, I've wheeled my whole life without it, but man, it's kind of convenient being able to hit that front camera button and see what is going on while you are pitched up and can't see in front of you. Now guys, last but not least, one thing that kind of was a gripe here on the V6, again, technology group would have come with the Alpine sound system. And again, I'm not a big audiophile, but goodness gracious, that stock stereo, at least in the 24, was pretty darn tinny, I guess if you will. It wasn't very full. Again, it's a Wrangler, it's not supposed to be some luxury vehicle, but for whatever reason, that specific radio stereo speaker setup in that V6 was very, very tinny. It just wasn't very full sounding, and I always kind of kicked myself for not ordering the Alpine sound system, which basically just adds a sub in the back. So I was looking at solutions to add a sub and going from there, but again, this took care of that little gripe also. And goodness, just having that sub in the back really fills the cabin or adds a lot fuller sound. So again, it took care of another little gripe that I had with it. So guys, let's go get this thing out on the road and I'll kind of talk about my week and a half of driving so far. But first, let's listen to the kind of other cool benefit of that 392. And of course, that is already hot engine restart instead of cold engine. On cold engine start, the thing's absolutely ridiculous on startup, and that's kind of cool. A Wrangler making that kind of noise is just very unexpected. Now guys, another kind of very cool 392 specific thing here now that we're moving is the dual mode exhaust. There is a button on the dash that changes you from your performance loud mode down to your quiet, almost non-existent exhaust tone from the back. It's pretty darn cool. Around town it's pretty cool or pretty fun having the loud performance exhaust turned on, but it's also very nice if you're needing to take a phone call to be able to reach down, hit the exhaust button, and have it almost completely silent while driving. Now, like I said, I've been driving this thing for about a week and a half, and we also went wheeling on Labor Day weekend. So this thing's already been on the 37s out driving down the road and wheeling in Disney, Oklahoma. Now, daily driver, again, you don't buy a Jeep or a Jeep Wrangler for that matter for the fuel economy, but it is something that is worth talking about if it's going to be your daily driver, as this is going to be. My 3.6 liter with the 488 gears and the Extreme 35 package was averaging around low 15s on my kind of mixed in-town city driving. Now, again, I never really saw much higher than 15.5, 15.4. That, again, was my mixed driving. Our last off-roading trip with the 3.6 Wrangler on the 37s, out howling down the highway, on the way home, it only was getting about 13.3 miles to the gallon with those big, huge, heavy 37s. Now, jumping into the 392, I was assuming this thing was going to do slightly worse, but I've been pleasantly surprised. In town, in my mixed driving here, I'm looking at the average fuel economy and I'm showing 15.1 miles to the gallon. So yeah, it's doing basically what the V6 was doing in town with almost double the horsepower. So that's saying something. Now, the 392 does have MDS, and if you don't know what MDS is, that is the system that cuts these cylinders down from a V8 down to a 4-cylinder when the engine load is really low and there isn't any demand for the additional power. It can kick off 4 cylinders and run the thing in, again, a 4-cylinder mode. Now, like I said, we did go off-roading with the 37s on this thing. I was kind of interested to see what kind of fuel economy I was going to be getting. Surprisingly, going home from off-roading, following the group, again, we weren't doing 80 mile an hour down the highway, we were doing 70, 75-ish. This thing ended up pulling 16.6 miles to the gallon, so it bested the 3.6 liter by 3 miles to the gallon. I don't know, it's what the screen said, and that's what I'm going off of on both vehicles. So surprisingly, I'm getting basically identically the same fuel economy as the 3.6 liter. Now, I believe the 2-liter turbo would probably do better, but maybe not on 35s with gearing, etc. So it's been very surprising driving this thing around and having the fuel economy be as good as it has been. But I mean, this thing for the most part is a very identical vehicle to the V6, other than the little bit more power when you push on the throttle. The steering wheel is different in the 392. You've got a little bit more of a performance thick wheel. You've got some paddle shifters there on the dash, but again, other than a button for the active exhaust, you wouldn't have any clue you're in a 392. Now, the big issue with the 392, the one big, huge, glaring issue other than pricing, is the darn transfer case. That's one of the things I griped about in my 6-month ago video with my 3.6 liter. There are multiple options that end up getting you a bad or less desirable transfer case in JLs. Now, you are forced with that less desirable transfer case in a 392, and then that transfer case is a clutch operated transfer case. So there are clutch packs in that transfer case that can wear, get worn, get hot, get overheated, and cause issues and not allow that vehicle to be able to hold itself in 4-wheel drive. That's something that I obviously knew or understood taking on this 392, and kind of knew that I'm going to want to address in the future. Now, are we addressing this next month? No, absolutely not. The thing's still under warranty. If the transfer case were to blow up, you can just get one replaced at the dealership. But eventually, we're going to need to do something about the transfer case. My plan is not to do a big Atlas II $8,000 transfer case, but there are a couple of companies that have successfully kind of made a good transfer case. You need a transfer case out of a Sport Wrangler, and then you kind of part and piece the 392 transfer case and the Sport transfer case and mold them into one that actually is a proper transfer case. Now, by proper transfer case, I mean it has a two-wheel drive position, a four-wheel drive high, and a four-wheel drive low. And in those positions, it locks the front and rear drive shaft together, unlike the clutch type transfer case, which just has clutch packs trying to hold the drive shafts together and can be slipped. So that's going to be something that I've got to address. I hate the fact that these things have clutch transfer cases, and if you look online, you'll see a bunch of guys with issues in service four-wheel drive lights, and if we can eliminate that issue in the future, that's going to be a benefit. So guys, like I said, I had absolutely no plans of the upgrade, if you will, but it just kind of fell into my lap. The pricing all of a sudden was right, and it just made sense to try out a 392, try to save a Hemi. Again, guys, this is the last of a dying breed. There's not going to be Hemis for very much longer, so if we could save one and add it to the collection, then why not? And if I could bring you guys along for the journey, that's all the better. So guys, thanks for watching today, introducing the new 392 to the channel. And I'll of course be bringing you guys along on all of the little part and pieces that we throw on this thing, all of the trips we take with it, and we'll see what we can do with some power. We may have to take the thing to the drag strip too, because these things are kind of quick down a drag strip, which sounds very ridiculous in a Wrangler, but here we are. So guys, thanks for coming out into the driveway and into the 392 with me, and guys, as always, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you guys next time.